The system on chip is an integrated circuit that consolidates most of the components of a computer or mobile system into a single chip. In mobile devices, system on chips are designed for high efficiency and low power consumption, balancing processing performance with thermal and battery constraints. The system on chip integrates a central processing unit, which executes instructions, handles application logic and system tasks, graphical processing unit that manages rendering of images, videos, and graphics, digital signal processor, which optimizes media and audio operations, a memory controller and interfaces that facilitate communication with RAM and flash storage, a modem and baseband processor, which manages cellular communication, a signal processor that handles input from camera sensors, security modules that include components such as secure enclave or trusted execution environment in Android for secure key storage and cryptographic operations. These modules communicate over internal buses and work together to ensure smooth operation of the operating system and applications. System on chip significance in device security, including Android and iOS, is very important as they play a central role in enforcing device level security, especially in locked devices. Key security responsibilities include secure boot chains. In modern mobile secure system on chips implement secure boot mechanisms, which ensure that only trusted and signed code is executed at boot time. This, of course, prevents unauthorized firmware modifications, malware implants, or OS downgrades. In Apple, we have the usage of secure boot, secure enclave processor, and the boot ROM. Android uses verified boot, trusted execution environment, and DM Verity for integrity checks. We also have key management and encryption that is very important as well. Both iOS and Android enforce full device encryption with encryption keys stored in hardware-bound secure modules. The Apple Secure Enclave stores cryptographic keys in a dedicated secure processor isolated from the main CPU. RAM Trusted Zone that is used in Android system on chips implements a trusted execution environment for key storage and secure operations. On locked devices, decryption keys are inaccessible without user authentication, such as PIN, password, Face ID, fingerprint, or pattern. This makes NAND flash extraction without the key cryptographically very hard. Next, we have a system on chips and locked phones in the forensic significance, which we're going to discuss. When analyzing locked phones, forensic investigators are often constrained by system on chip level security. That, as already mentioned, encryption keys are not stored in software or recoverable from the file system. That means the data remains inaccessible even if the physical memory is dumped via chip-off technique that we will later on see. Secure elements actively resist tampering as well. Apple Secure Enclave wipes keys after multiple failed attempts. In short, system on chips enforce the lock state and protect user data by tying cryptographic keys, let's say, to secure hardware states, often verified at boot time. Despite these protections, hardware-level forensic techniques still may be attempted under specific conditions, especially on older or unpatched devices. Then we have chip-off forensics that involves removing the NAND flash memory from the PCB using heat and specialized equipment, as we will later discuss. The chip is then imaged using flash memory readers. This, of course, has limitations if encryption is enabled and the keys are not on the NAND chip. That means data remains unreadable. On modern iPhones and Android devices, chip is often ineffective due to encryption key separation. In general, we have JTAG, which is a method that reads memory via debug ports on the motherboard, allows access to live memory, requires precise soldering or pogo pin interfaces, and has certain limitations that it often is disabled on production devices or protected via secure boot measures. Then we have glitching or fault injection, also called smart flow attack sometimes. This involves injecting electrical glitches, voltage manipulation, or clock faulting at critical execution points to bypass security checks. Successful in some cases to defeat bootloader protections or access secure memory regions, but again, these are capabilities that usually commercial tools have implemented on them, such as universal forensic extraction device from Celebrite. This is a very well-known attack that actually can be very effective for some Android devices. Nevertheless, in this section, we're going to take a look at system-on-chip architectures and why they matter so much in mobile forensics. Each system-on-chip determines not just the performance of the device, but also the security posture, data accessibility, and forensic approach that we need to take. Firstly, we have Qualcomm Snapdragon. This is used in a majority of Android phones globally, including Samsung, OnePlus, Google Pixel, Xiaomi, and even more. Snapdragon chips come with a Qualcomm secure execution environment this is a trusted zone that securely handles keys, encryption, and sensitive operations. Since Android 10, Snapdragon devices have enforced file-based encryption by default. We will take a better look in the future about this kind of encryption mechanisms, but for now it is enough to say that it has been enforced. Combined with locked bootloaders, it makes a full physical extraction very difficult, especially in newer models. It is worth mentioning that in newer Android models, physical extraction won't be an option for us, and we will go with other extraction levels and options for the devices that you are going to consider. That said, they remain well supported in general by commercial tools like Celebrite, Oxygen, etc. for logical and file system acquisitions, particularly if USB debugging is enabled, as we will later also see. In forensic contexts, SmartFlow attacks may sometimes be used for exploitation and emergency download mode, a special mode that we are going to also study that provides an entry point. But on newer devices, it's either disabled or heavily restricted. It's worth mentioning also that Pixel devices which use Snapdragon in earlier models are quite forensic friendly. Thanks to Google's developer community, bootloader unlocking is possible, which is ideal for research and also those who are willing to go into mobile security career. Next, we have Samsung Exynos. This chip is found in Galaxy devices in Europe, Asia, and Africa. It includes a trusted zone based on RM's security architecture and integrates tightly with Samsung Knox for secure boot, trusted boot, and security enhancements for Android. Historically, Exynos devices were easier to exploit or acquire than Snapdragon counterparts. In fact, older Exynos models are often ideal for forensic targets. However, recent versions like the Exynos 2100, 200, and 400 have made major security improvements. Exynos still supports full file system or even physical acquisition in some scenarios, but only if the device isn't locked down by Knox or factory reset protection. One needs to be careful because rooting can trip Knox, which may irreversibly destroy data like in the secure folder. The investigator always needs to assess the device state before proceeding. That's why we put a special emphasis in the earlier units, but identifying the device, performing some checks during the preservation, and then making it ready for the extraction. Next, we have HiSilicon Kirin. This is developed by HiSilicon, Huawei's in-house chip division. You'll find Kirin in Huawei and Honor devices from before the US sanctions, for example, in the P30, Mate 40, and Nova series. These chips feature a custom trusted execution environment along with secure and verified boot and hardware-backed key protection. But from a forensic standpoint, Kirin devices are among the hardest to extract from. Since 2018, Huawei has permanently disabled bootloader unlocking, and physical or file system acquisition is mostly unavailable without custom complex exploits. SmartFlow attacks from Celebrite work sometimes against this kind of chip, but results are inconsistent. Logical extraction is sometimes possible, but it's often limited, especially after Windows 10. Also, due to US sanctions, modern Huawei devices lack Google services, which means cloud extraction from platforms like Google Drive is no longer an option. We will take a deeper look in the future modules for this kind of problem. Next, we have MediaTek, which is the system on chip of choice for budget Android phones. I think Xiaomi, Redmi, Realme, Tecno, Infinix, and some Nokia or Motorola models. As an example, security on MTK chips varies, while newer chips like the Dimensity series have tighter controls. Older and lower MTK devices are often great forensic targets. That's because of common boot ROM vulnerabilities and support for live memory dumps. Tools like SP Flash Tool, MTK Client, and some commercial platforms can take full advantage of these flows. Usually in forensic labs, MTK devices are often considered more accessible than Snapdragon or Kirin devices, especially when working with budget markets. In the next, we have Google Tensor, which powers Pixel 6 and later devices. Tensor integrates the Titan M or Titan M2 chip. This is, of course, Google's secure element, responsible for boot chain validation, encryption, and key storage, enforcing biometric protection. And because of these protections, physical extraction on locked Tensor devices is not possible. However, Google's Pixel devices still allow bootloader unlocking, which makes file system and logical acquisition feasible, especially for research, test, and comparative cases. Still, forensic investigators should know that the Titan chip blocks low-level access, particularly to credentials and biometric data. To summarize, Snapdragon offers broad support but strong encryption. Exynos was historically easier but now hardened by Knox. Kirin is nearly locked down completely, but of course there are certain cases that become very challenging. MediaTek is open and accessible, especially in lower end models, and Tensor combines strong security with some flexibility thanks to bootloader unlocks.